Exactly. The CDC expected to shorten the recommended time people need to quarantine to prevent the spread of COVID-19. All the details ahead.
And I'm Erin Myers, live here in West Hollywood, where restaurants, breweries, and wineries are going to have to start shutting down tonight at 10 o'clock. But many are trying to fight back. I'll have those details coming up.
Good morning, I'm Lynette Romero at LAX. Thanksgiving Day travel this holiday week is nowhere near where it's been in years past, but if you ask the health experts, they'll say it's still too high. Coming up, I'll have a live report.
Good Wednesday morning, I'm Jessica Holmes. Despite the pandemic, the LA Mission will continue to feed the hungry this Thanksgiving, and they need your help. How you can volunteer just ahead.
Good morning. The day before Thanksgiving, it looks dry and the winds are going to be picking up. First of all, starting out with some cold winds coming in from the northwest, and then that's going to be turning around, heading into Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday with warmer temperatures. 65, 67, 70 for the San Fernando Valley, 64 in the high desert, Inland Empire 69, Orange County Inland 67 degrees. That said, Ginger with all the latest in traffic.
Oh, yes, and boy, is it slow for our friends traveling any stretch of the 101 freeway, the Hollywood portion, I should say, right? I think the Ventura is also getting a little bit tough. But anyway, here's our Caltrans camera first to show you that ride, because the course coming at us is that ongoing signal alert. Still waiting for the official word, and I do feel like they are making progress, because it kind of almost looks like they're really able to get through. Cars coming at us is the southbound side, right at Santa Monica Western, where they've had those two right lanes blocked for some time. On the northbound side, it's two things. One is loop-de-loop slowing, and then the other thing is there was a crash right in that exact same spot that was hogging up lanes as well. So the reason you're looking at both sides being very tough. We'll move you over to the 5 North, right about Roxford Street. So this wreck, it looks like it's been pretty serious because it's in lanes. Both directions are slow because of it. 3 left lanes are blocked. They are in the final stages of this one, talking about moving at least a couple of those cars already to the right shoulder. But you can see it's not only jamming up the 5 freeway, but in turn, it looks like, wow, the 405 is really backed up because of it as well. We'll watch some of these spots. I think it's a surprise to some people to get some of these heavy delays that we're starting to see. I'll send it back to you, Justin Frank.
A new targeted stay-at-home order could soon be imposed on LA County. If it happens, people will be told to stay in their homes as much as possible. All public and private events with people outside of your household would be banned. There would be exceptions for outdoor church services and for protests. Essential indoor retail would be allowed at 35% capacity. Non-essential indoor retail would be allowed at 20% capacity. Hiking and biking trails would stay open as long as people kept their distance and wore a mask. Yesterday, nearly 3,700 new cases were reported, along with 51 additional deaths. It's unclear when a new stay-at-home order could go into effect. According to public health officials, though, the county is already averaging enough new daily cases to justify additional restrictions.
Federal health officials are likely to shorten their recommendation for how long people should quarantine. It's currently 14 days. The White House Coronavirus Task Force says it could be reduced to 7. The exact language of the new guidelines and when they might be announced remains unclear. The CDC says the period could be shortened if patients are tested for the virus during their quarantine. The decision to change the guidance is not final. Experts are still reviewing data to make sure changes would not put people at risk.
The number of folks traveling by plane for Thanksgiving is down by more than half from this time last year due to the pandemic.
But officials say still too many people. KTLA's Lynette Romero live at LAX with more on that. Lynette, good morning.
It really is about perspective. When you look at last year, clearly we are nowhere near where we were during last Thanksgiving season. But in terms of travel altogether, we've been here before at LAX where it's been a ghost town. Nobody here. That hasn't been the case recently. We have seen an uptick in travelers. Joining me now to give us some perspective is the PIO here from LAX, Charles. Say your last name again. Panunzio. Thank you so much. That's a tough one. So, Charles, first of all, let's have this perspective in terms of what did you expect? Certainly, we knew we're in a pandemic, but there was a lot of talk that this Thanksgiving we would see some ease up on the travel, fears, and people would just be jumping on planes, but that's not what we're seeing.
Well, so on a typical Wednesday before Thanksgiving, we'd be looking at 250,000 passengers coming through the airport, something like 110,000 vehicles on our roadways. and we're probably looking at about 1/3 of that at the end of the day. The airlines were flying less seats in, about 50% of the seats that they flew last year, and we didn't know quite what the load factors would be on those planes. But looking at what we've been having coming through the airport the last couple of weeks, where we've been about 30% of normal, we figured 30 to 35% of last Thanksgiving would be a good guess.
So 30% of normal, but in terms of since this pandemic began, where we saw no travelers, we have seen it start to ease up.
Absolutely. In March and April, we were down 95%. And it started coming back May, June, July, and it got to that 30% number, and it's kind of stayed there.
So what is your advice to passengers this morning who are waking up and seeing some of these new numbers, record numbers of cases, record numbers of deaths and hospitalizations? They might say, you know what, I did purchase that ticket, but I'm backing out now.
Well, and following the state and the city's guidance, we're telling folks as well, if it's non-essential travel, stay home. If you're sick, don't come to the airport. If it is essential travel, we're doing things at the airport to make the airport safer for you to make that trip. But again, if you don't feel comfortable, this is the time to stay home.
Are you seeing any new protocols going on inside the airport that we haven't seen before, or is it the same stuff that we've been seeing all along?
It's a lot of the things that we've been doing since March and April, but people are coming back to the airport for the first time, maybe even in a year if they only travel at the holidays, and they're seeing these things now for the